Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squad for boxing news and views from around the internet. Two heavyweight fights on the Shields and Hammer card in Atlantic City. Well, actually there was three, but there was two on the televised broadcast. One with Otto Wallin versus Nick Kisner, and the other Jermaine Franklin versus Rydell Booker. And that fight went the distance, the second one, but Wallin'S one, that was really a disappointment. So I'll start with that because there's not a lot to go through because it only lasted one round. And this fight, it always did look like a mismatch, but it didn't end in a knockout in the way that you might think. It didn't end out in a knockout at all. So this showcase fight for the Swede, his first fight in the United States, he was actually denied the opportunity to showcase his skills and what he can do, and it was a no decision. Partway through what was a relatively ugly round to watch, the two butted heads unintentionally, and it was ruled as such, and that head clash had opened up a nasty gash over Nick Kisner's right eye. And while Wallin sustained a minor cut in the incident, it was Kisner who had the worst of it, steady stream of blood coming out. The doctor came in after Kisner started complaining incessantly about the cut and the impact it was having on him. And it looked like it might be stopped, but even though he looked like he wanted out, the doctor ruled he could continue. But after the round, which didn't really feature a lot of action, there was one time where Wallin threw Kisner to the ground. After that first round, it was all over. The doctor comes into the corner, Kisner still complaining, says he can't see out of his right eye, and it's waved off. And because it ended so early, it was an unintentional head clash, officially ruled a no decision. So it's almost like the fight never happened. But both, from what they were saying on the broadcast, will still get paid. And it's a pretty good result for Nick Kisner. The cut still gets paid, doesn't take a battering, except he does have that cut. So no one's record is blotted in any way. So Otto Wallin remains at 20-0, a massive disappointment for him, no doubt, because this was his first fight out of Europe. He was going to be fighting in the United States, television broadcast, a lot of eyes on this card because it was the undisputed fight between Christina Hammer and Claressa Shields, and it was a big stage for him, and ultimately ends in a round. Both get cut. Kisner manages to get out of the fight, and Wallin denied an opportunity to either stop Kisner, look good in general, and from what we saw in the round, it was just too early to sort of get a read on what the fight might have played out like, because it was pretty ugly sort of stuff in there, really. So a shame for Otto Wallin, and after all that hard work and training in the lead up to this, several weeks in training camp, it ends in a round with a no decision. So on to the next one for him. Hopefully, I'm sure he will be expecting a longer fight next time, or at least a result. Anyway, to the other fight on the card, which was Jermaine Franklin versus Rydell Booker. So Jermaine Franklin coming into this, the prospect with 17 wins, looking for his 18th against the veteran Rydell Booker. And Booker was an interesting story because he'd had several years out of the ring because he was in prison, and that was for distribution of cocaine. They said on the broadcast, I think it was something like 35 pounds, or it was a huge amount of drugs. Anyway, a number of years out of the ring, 25-1 heading into this. His only loss had been to James Toney. First round, it was a pretty good round. Decent action, trading jabs. It looked to be a relatively even matchup, and even though Booker was 38 years old, he was holding his own, and there was a couple of big sweeping left hooks that almost hit the target from Jermaine Franklin, who was very active in the first round, threw a lot of punches, looked very eager. He did end up eating a nice left hook from Booker at the end of the round, but overall, because of the work rate and some of what he was doing, it was a relatively even round, but I did edge it to Franklin. And I won't go through the rest of this because this fight, it was good in spots, but it was by far from a classic. But Booker, he had his best rounds of the fight in round 2 and round 3, but there was becoming a bit of a pattern. Booker kind of looked to only have the one gear. He couldn't seem to change it up. A little bit one-paced, and he was looking good on the counter, and he was taking advantage when Franklin's work rate dropped. But when Franklin was busy and active, he did look the better of the two fighters. But he was leaping in at times, and his defense was a little bit leaky. He was open to the left hook. But from about round 4, round 5 onwards, he really started to take over a bit more, and he was sort of starting to bank some of the rounds. Although when it went to the cards later on, because this one went the full 10 rounds, 99 to 91 to Franklin, and 2 cards 98-92 to Franklin. Clear decision for Franklin. I thought the 99-91 card was a little bit cruel because Booker did have some, round 2 and round 3 especially, I thought he at least won the 2 rounds, possibly even a third. There was a round 7 where there was some competitive action and he managed to touch up Franklin a bit, some good pin him on the ropes, some good hooks and a couple of uppercuts. There was really good action in that round, but Franklin did finish the stronger of the two. He said ahead of the fight that he tends to warm up into his fights, and I think we saw some of that in this fight, but there was a lot of talk from Franklin ahead of this that he is the best US heavyweight, that he is waiting for his opportunity to really show his wares to the world and prove his worth, his mettle, and that he is one to watch in the division. Unfortunately for him, this performance, it probably doesn't really do that. Rydell Booker, even though he showed he was a durable character, some good skills, he was managing even late in the fight to slip punches and do some good work in there. He was expected to be beaten in here, and this is ultimately what happened. But Franklin wasn't exactly completely dominant either. Even though the scorecard has it, really wide to Franklin on the cards, it wasn't like it was so lopsided that this was, a complete mismatch. Booker was having a lot of success in this fight. He showed that Franklin is a bit leaky in defense. He was open to shots, especially the left hook, and he even got, and especially on the counter, Booker was timing Franklin quite well. So there's a number of things to work on here, and Franklin, he did come in about 10 pounds heavier than he said he was going to. He was 245 for this fight, said he was coming about 235. But I guess a win is a win, and perhaps some of what happened in this fight, potentially it could be put down to nerves, because he was very excitable at times. He was really sort of pushing his punches at times. He was throwing a lot of volume, but some of it wasn't very effective work, and maybe the sense of occasion, maybe that could have played a part. It's hard to say, but on the strength of that performance, the rest of the heavyweight division probably doesn't need to sort of, turn their head and go, I have to watch out for Franklin. It wasn't that sort of statement that he delivered. It was a good, solid win, but nothing more. I do want to see more of him, but on the basis of that performance, I don't think we can sort of say that, he's approaching top 20 anytime soon. He needs, obviously, more development, more fights, and hopefully we do see him in some more competitive fights soon. He's had a big gap ahead of this fight, about 9 months since his last fight. He's just fought Booker here. Hopefully he's back sometime in the middle of the year. If he isn't, injured from this fight or anything like that, there's no reason that he shouldn't be out again soon. But he gets the win, so he moves on. So disappointing for Wallin, and maybe for Franklin, not the sort of performance that he was saying he was going to deliver, but a win nonetheless. What did you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.